Well, hello everybody, welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making Bakewell Tart squares. Now I've made Bakewell Tarts before in a flan tin with a short crust pastry, raspberry jam and frangipane on top. Today I'm going to be doing basically the same, but I'm going to do it in a 20 centimetre by 30 centimetre or 12 inch, 8 inch by 12 inch pan like that, so that I can then cut it into squares, and the tart won't have any sides of pastry. It would just be a flat sheet of pastry with the frangipane and the raspberry jam on top. Now I have to one side lots of butter, lots of sugar, lots of almonds and flaked almonds, eggs, raspberry jam, lemon and flour, and I'll tell you all about those a bit later. But we need to start off with our pastry base first. So I'll just get some butter from the fridge. I have 125 grams of butter there. I have 300 grams of plain flour, 2 tablespoons of milk, though I may not need all of it, 1 egg and 30 grams of caster sugar. I will be using another egg to wash the pastry later, but just 1 egg for mixing the pastry. So into a food processor we put the flour. Now you could do this by hand, but it means rubbing it together in your fingers to the breadcrumb consistency, and it's quicker to do it in a food processor. So I put that flour and the sugar in, then I'm simply going to add the butter into there, and I'm going to process that until it's like fine breadcrumbs. I'll just check that. That looks good. And then I'm going to add in the egg. And I'm going to process it until it comes together, adding, as I need to, a little bit of the milk. Now I've actually put in almost 2 tablespoons of milk, but it looks as though the pastry is just about coming together. So I'm going to, you don't want to overwork the pastry. If you overwork it, it will actually shrink quite a bit in baking. It probably will shrink a little bit anyway. So I'm just going to cut that in with this spatula to make sure that I get the drier parts of the flour incorporated, and then I will pull it together on this mat. Now if you need to add a little bit more liquid, that's fine, you can do that. But you don't want to put too much liquid in if you can avoid it. So I'll just knead that a little bit and see how it comes together. I'm going to roll that into a ball. Chill that in the fridge for 20 minutes. And then we will roll it out, put it in our tin, and we will blind bake it. For the blind baking, I will preheat the oven to 200 Celsius, that's 180 Celsius with a fan, or 400 Fahrenheit, and that would be just about perfect for the baking. So I will be back with you in 20 minutes and we'll roll that out and get on to the next step as well. Okay, so I've let this chill for a while. Now, you may have noticed 1 cube of butter didn't go into the processor, and I spotted it, so I have incorporated that into this now. And what I'm going to do is roll this out. It's still very short, as you can see. And it's going to crack and break, but that's fine, because with a short pastry like this you can always patch it and it will work just as well. I'm just going to get some more flour. And I want to roll this out to 8 by 12 inches and then put it into our pan. Now, I did say to preheat the oven, but I'm not preheating it at this stage because I'm going to chill this for another 30 minutes after it's in the pan. Now that's cracked, but that's fine, as I said, and we're almost at the right size. So I'm actually just going to roll that a little bit more, and then I'm going to patch it once it's in the pan. I know I've lined this pan, I've greased the pan and I've lined it with parchment paper. I'm just going to let this drop in and I'm going to pull it up and just press it down. And patch it to make sure that there are no gaps or cracks. So for that, I'm just going to cut these edges off, and they will work as my patches. Okay, so I've lined that just up to the edges, and I'm going to put that in the fridge now for another 30 minutes. When I take it out, I would have preheated the oven to 400 Fahrenheit, 200 Celsius, 180 Celsius with a fan, and we're going to blind bake that. For blind baking, we'll use baking beads and parchment paper, which will go in and the beads will go on top. That's just to give us a nice firm base that we can egg wash so that our jam doesn't sink into the pastry and make it soggy. So I'll be back with you in 30 minutes. Right, so I've let this chill for 30 minutes in the fridge. I'm now just going to, with a fork, prick it all the way over. And then I'm going to take my parchment paper and I'm going to put that in. Like that. And I'm going to fill it, or cover it, not fill it, with these baking beans. They're ceramic beans. You could use rice or something like that, but of course you wouldn't then cook the rice later for eating. You just use it for blind baking and reuse it. And I'm going to bake that in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes until the pastry's beginning to turn a nice golden brown. I'm then going to take it out of the oven, and with this egg I'm going to put a wash all over it and put it back in the oven for 5 minutes. When it comes out of the oven after those 5 minutes, I'm going to turn the oven down to 180 Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, or 350 Fahrenheit. That's ready for the frangipane to go on and to bake. So I will be back with you when I've taken this out of the oven, and we'll go on and we'll make the frangipane mixture. So I've taken our pastry out of the oven, having egg washed it and baked it. I've reduced the heat in the oven to 180 Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit. Now we'll go on to make the frangipane. For that I have 225 grams of softened butter, which I'm going to put into the mixer. You can do this by hand if you want, but I'm going to do it in a mixer. And to that I'm going to add 225 grams of caster sugar. And I'm going to beat that until it's nice and fluffy. and I'll scrape down the sides as necessary. Okay, so that's nice and soft and fluffy now. So then I have 3 medium eggs, that would be large eggs in the USA, and I have put into that 1 teaspoon of almond extract, just for that extra almond flavour. Now you don't have to do that, but because I like almonds and I like that rich almond flavour, I put that in. And I'm going to add these eggs in about 3 additions. So I'll put a little bit in first, and I will mix that in. I'll give the egg mixture one final scrape, and then I'm going to add the ground almonds and mix that in until they're all combined. Okay, so the ground almonds can go in. That's 225 grams of ground almonds. Scrape that down and give it another little mix. Okay. So then there's just 2 more items to go in. That's 50 grams of flour and the zest from 1 lemon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to sprinkle the lemon over to get it spread around a little bit, and then sprinkle the flour over the top. And just fold that in till all the flour is incorporated as well. So that's our mixture done, our frangipane. The next thing to do is to take some jam. This is a raspberry jam. This is seedless, and you want to spread it over the pastry, but leave a gap of 1 inch all the way around the edge. Now, how much you use is up to you. I don't think you need to use too much, but you want enough to spread nicely all the way over. And you could use raspberry jam with seed in, but I like the seedless. And the reason for leaving the edge is that what will happen as you put the frangipane on and spread that, then the jam will tend to spread up to the edges as well, and then as it heats up it becomes more liquid. Just a little bit more, I think. So you have a nice covering. So I've got my offset spatula, and I'm going to just drop the frangipane onto the jam. You could actually pipe this and then just spread it out, so level it off after you've piped it. And we just spread that out. And then when you've got that roughly level, I think that's not too bad. You need to top it with some flaked almonds or shaved almonds, and I've actually got 50 grams here, but how many you use is entirely up to you. Right, I have actually used all of them. Okay, so then that is going to go into the oven for about 20 minutes until the frangipane has cooked. And it's got a nice golden colour. Then you take it out of the oven and you allow it to cool completely in the tin before you either try to take it out or before you cut it. So I'll be back with you when this has cooled completely. Right, so I'm back with you, and I baked these. I actually baked them for 30 minutes. I didn't think they looked anywhere near brown enough on top, and after 20 minutes, so I left them in for a further 10 minutes and tested with a skewer, and that came out clean. So I have a nice pastry base with the raspberry and then the frangipane on top, and they're fully cooked. Now I've cut them. I was going to try to take the whole thing out of the pan, but I'm afraid I thought that it would probably break as I lifted it out. So I actually cut them in the pan after they'd cooled down. And I've cut them into roughly 2-inch squares. So let's just test one. You've got the nice firm pastry base, and your teeth sink into the frangipane with the crunch of the almonds on top and the raspberry in the middle, giving that nice sharp hit as well. Very, very good indeed. Well, that's it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video, and also click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's below the video. In the top right hand corner of the video screen, there will be an eye that you can click on to get to the recipe. There'll also be a link below the video for the recipe if you want it. I will be back with you again in the very near future with another recipe. So until then, happy baking.